George Trepel was convicted and sentenced to death for the murder of Peggy Carr. George Trepel and his wife moved into their home in Alturas, Florida during the early 1980s. Perry Allen and Peggy Carr married in 1988, and Peggy Carr moved into the Perry Allen's home, which was located next to Trepel's home. Travis Carr, Perry Allen's son, and Wayne Burley, Peggy's son, also resided at the Alturas residence. If you enjoyed true crime videos, then subscribe to our channel for weekly videos. In 1988, Perry Allen Carr renovated their garage into an apartment where his daughters, Delina Shiver and Tammy Reed, and his granddaughter, Casey Bell, resided. Trepel and the Carrs were involved in a number of altercations, including one incident in which Trepel threatened to kill one of the Carr children. The Carrs also received an unsigned letter threatening harm to their family if they did not leave Florida. In October of 1988, Peggy Carr began to suffer from a mysterious illness. She was admitted to the hospital and remained there for several days before being discharged. After discharge, Peggy's condition worsened and she was readmitted to the hospital. Travis Carr and Wayne Burley also exhibited similar symptoms and were transported to the hospital. Dr. Hostler suspected thallium poisoning based on the symptoms displayed. Within one day, thallium poisoning was confirmed. Peggy Carr's condition worsened and she fell into a coma. She died when life support was disconnected in March of 1988. Travis Carr and Wayne Burley remained in the hospital for treatment of thallium poisoning. Further testing revealed the presence of thallium in other family members, including Delina Shiver, Casey Bell, and Perry Allen Carr. In November of 1989, officials collected samples from the Carr household in an attempt to determine the origin of the thallium. Tilla tested the residue in several empty Coca-Cola bottles retrieved during the collection of samples. Thallium was detected in the Coca-Cola bottles. The lot numbers of the cola bottles allow police to trace when and where the bottles were produced. Officials determined that it was impossible for 8 bottles containing thallium to end up being packaged together. Coca-Cola officials claimed that they had not received any other reports of poisoning or threats related to tampering with their product. In June of 1988, the Carrs received a letter threatening that they would all die if they did not leave Florida immediately. The letter was unsigned. The prosecution linked Trepel to the threatening letter that the Carrs had received because of comments he made during a police interview. When officials inquired into why Trepel thought someone would poison the Carrs, he told them to get them to move out. Trepel claimed to accompany his wife to the office every day. However, the police determined that he either stayed at home or went to his own office each day. Thus, Trepel had the opportunity to enter the Carrs' residence because they did not always lock their doors upon leaving the residence. Also, Trepel had worked as a chemist in an amphetamine laboratory. Thallium was a byproduct of amphetamine production. In 1975, Trepel was convicted of conspiracy to manufacture methamphetamine. In order to further investigate Trepel, Special Agent Susan Gorick went undercover. She attended a Mensa murder weekend that Trepel's wife organized under the name of Sherry Gann. Trepel wrote a pamphlet for the weekend that described writing a threatening note and then poisoning the recipient of the note. During this weekend, Gorick had contact with Trepel and learned that he was selling his Alturas residence and was moving to Sebring, Florida, or to Virginia. Gorick arranged to rent Trepel's home after he and his wife moved. After paying the rent and money orders, Gorick and a search team went to the home. In the garage, the investigators found a bottle containing powdered thallium. After the discovery of thallium, Trepel was charged with 7 counts of poisoning. A subsequent search of Trepel's Sebring home in April of 1989 turned up chemistry books and equipment, including information about poisons. Officials also found the Agatha Christie novel Pale Horse, which described using thallium to poison people in a household. Finally, the police found a bottle copying machine that could be used to replace the bottle caps of Coca-Cola bottles after the cap was removed to introduce the poison into the drink.